Of the Spyder's Web on YouTube. This is the second edition of this show. A lot of things to get to for my show. First of all, first and foremost, I'd just like to thank everybody again for clicking on the channel and looking at what I have to say. And again, I have a lot to say. First things first, the Buccaneers finally get their coach, Greg Schiano. Now, when I first heard the name of Schiano, I really wasn't a fan of him. I really didn't know him that well. The only thing I really knew about Greg Schiano was that he was a coach for Rutgers. He did a good job with them. He had a pretty good record. That kind of came out of nowhere. It was looking like it was going to be Chip Kelly. He was going to be our new coach, and he had this offensive system he was going to bring in. And then it didn't happen. Almost like Bill Parcells all over again. So, what do I think about Greg Schiano? Well, when I first heard the move, I have to say I was pretty pissed off. I mean, honestly, I was pretty pissed off. And excuse my language, but this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to be real about this 100%. So, when I heard the name of Greg Schiano, again, I was a little bit upset. But then I do a little bit more research, and I come to find out that the guy has a defensive pedigree. He's been under coaches like Joe Paterno. He's been under coaches like Butch Davis. So then I'm starting to kind of buy into this whole thing. Okay? But not only that, he also was a defensive assistant for Chicago Bears, which you really can't go wrong with a defensive guy. This team, the Buccaneers, have to get back to that defensive mentality. And it's been lacking in the last, 5 years. It seems like it's been lacking longer than that. But remember, they won a Super Bowl in 2002 with that defense. So they have to get back to it. Teams in this division like Carolina, like New Orleans, like Atlanta, they're not going to go anywhere. They have explosive offenses. And consequently, the Buccaneers have a horrible defense, have had a horrible defense for the last couple of years. So, in that sense, it makes lots of sense at this point. Now I hear the press conference is TBA, trust, belief, accountability, and then I kind of buy into it more. Now, here's some negatives for me personally. There hasn't been many college coaches that have worked out in the NFL. I believe 3 in the last 20 years. So this is a stretch. This is a guy that a lot of NFL teams were not really sniffing. He had a chance to maybe go to the Rams. He had some other opportunities, but this was not a named guy. It doesn't mean that he won't be a good coach. I'm just saying there are some negatives there. One negative for me is he's never been a defensive coordinator. Yes, he's been a defensive assistant, but he hasn't been a coordinator. So, and my thoughts about the move, I like the move. I think it's a good move. I'm starting to buy into it. I like the move of bringing Butch Davis in as a defensive assistant / defensive coordinator. Yes, Tampa Bay probably wants to pay the money, but they also want Butch Davis to get his money from North Carolina. So he's going to be our defensive assistant. Bill Sheridan, I know I'm familiar with him. He was a defensive coordinator for the New York Giants for 1 year. And they give up 427 points. Now, I don't know if that's a great move, but we'll see. They hire Brian Cox. I mean, they're hiring guys that have been around the NFL that have experience. So it's a different kind of feel here for the Buccaneers. There's experienced parties in place, if you will. So I like the move overall. Now, on to free agency. And it's important. This is an important time for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Make no mistake about it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Buccaneers have to come out, and they have to come out and spend money this year. They have $67 million, okay? They have to go out, and they have to get guys that can play wide receiver. We need a deep threat on this team, speed-wise. We don't have it. Mike Williams, Aurelius Ben, they may be the answers, but they're probably the answers at the number 2 and number 3 spots. So this is my thinking. You go after Vincent Jackson, maybe you go after Mario Manningham, maybe you go after Pierre Gausson, Those names make sense. Hopefully it's Vincent Jackson. He's the top wide receiver in the free agent market. 6'5", 230. He's got speed. He's got hands. He has disappeared, though, in the games last year with San Diego. And that's a better quarterback than what Josh Freeman is. Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback than Josh Freeman. So, Again, it's a risk, but you're willing to take the risk because you have a need there. Mario Manningham played well in the Super Bowl. He's been pretty consistent. Is he a number one wide receiver? I'm not sure if he is or not. I'm not sure if he's a great route runner. But again, you take your chances. You take your shots. He's a guy that can get separation. He's proven to be a consistent pass catcher. So maybe you pay him some money. I will say this. The Buccaneers have been guilty of this before. Remember Alvin Harper? I hope you don't remember Alvin Harper because he basically did nothing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was a second wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys in the 90s. They tried to pay him like a number one wide receiver, and it didn't work out. Bernie Manuel, what's the story on him? He never worked out with Tampa Bay. I believe he was a number two wide receiver for Atlanta. They tried to turn him into a number one, and it didn't work out. So, again, there are risks to free agency, but you have to take those risks because, again, you have the money and you have needs. Now, another position that I would address at this point would be the cornerback situation, and that is a murky subject at this point. With Rondé Barber possibly retiring, he's their 17th season, he's 36 years old. I don't know how much more you can get out of him. If he's your best defensive player on your team, and that's one thing. That tells you how bad the defense is. But he missed a lot of tackles this year. It looks like he's seen his best days. Maybe he comes back in a nickel role. Maybe not. So what I would do is I would go get two guys. Now, Brent Grimes was one of those players that I would have gone and got from the Atlanta Falcons. But unfortunately, they franchised him. So that's the way the NFL works. So the two guys that I would probably go and consider getting would be one, Cortland Finnegan, and people say, well, he's too small, but the guy's tough. He's as tough as nails. This guy went toe-to-toe with Andre Johnson in the game. Now, he may have got his ass kicked, but he still was willing to go toe-to-toe with Andre Johnson. He was still willing to be physical. So I'm able to go ahead and deal with that, maybe a little bit of an attitude. I think we need that on this team. We need an attitude on this team. Another guy that's highly talented, Tracy Porter. You want to hurt one of your division rivals? That would be the way to do it. Tracy Porter, 26 years old. Seems like he could be a very good cornerback prospect for the Buccaneers. Could come in here and maybe add some athleticism. Because, again, you don't know where you're going to go with this cornerback situation. Rondé Barber's probably on his last legs. Aqib Talib could be going to prison. Let's face it, everybody. Aqib Talib has all the, what's the word I'm looking for? He has all the potential to be a Pro Bowl corner in this league. Unfortunately, he didn't show it last year. In fact, he almost regressed. He takes too many chances. He's not a great tackler, and he could end up in prison. So, again, this may be a position that you're going to look at in free agency. I think that would be a name that you would go after. Now, another name that you would go after, let me take a drink here, very good, would be Mario Williams from the Texans. And I know what you're saying, Daquan Bowers, and you draft Adrian Claiborne as your defensive ends. I'm all well and good with that. But let's look at some of the things that have gone on in the NFL lately. And it's about defensive line rotation. The Giants are a perfect subject for this. Okay, they had Michael Strahan on one side and O.C. Umenora on the other. It didn't stop them from drafting Justin Tuck. It didn't stop them from drafting Matthias Kiwanuka. Look at this year. They have Justin Tuck. They still have O.C. They still have Kiwanuka. And they go out and get Jason Pierre-Paul to give them that defensive line rotation. So, what I'm saying is this. Mario Williams was a #1 pick overall for the Houston Texans in 2006. That was a shock to me. A big-time shock. He has had some productive years with the Texans. They tried to play him at the 3-4 last year. I don't think that's his natural position. So, if I'm the Buccaneers and I necessarily cannot go out and get a wide receiver that's going to fit my needs, if I can't go out and get a cornerback that's going to fit my needs, then I would go after Mario Williams. And yeah, it may take away from the playing time of those two defensive ends. But here's the thing. You get a veteran guy that is full of talent that can come in here and show these defensive ends how to play football in the NFL. So what is so wrong with doing that? Now, are you going to have to break the bank? Yes, you're going to have to break the bank. You're going to have to spend money. It's just the way it is. Yeah, money doesn't grow on trees, but consequently, the Buccaneers have the money tree this year. They have $67 million, so you have to spend the money. So, if that's one of the guys you go and spend money on, I'm all for it. Now, another position of need for this team is the linebacking core. I don't have to tell you about how horrible they are. Mason Foster starting in the middle linebacker spot last year wasn't a very good idea. I don't know if he's ever going to be a middle linebacker in this league, but from what you saw last year in the games, he looked completely lost. Okay? So, can you afford to go into another year with Mason Foster as your starting middle linebacker? And I would say no. I think you have to go with the veteran. And there are two guys out there that would really fill the bill. Not only that, but you have Quincy Black and you have Geno Hayes. Geno Hayes is okay, but he's a free agent, so I don't know if he's going to come back. Quincy Black, you're stuck with him because you have that major contract that you have to deal with. So, I go out and get a middle linebacker. I would move Mason Foster to the outside because that's his natural position. That's what he played in college. And I would go after a guy like a Stephen Tulloch. He's 28 years old. He did a good job with Detroit. He's a good run stopper. He's also good in the pass. That would seem to make sense. Again, you're going to have to spend some money. And that is the theme of this show right now. On this subject right now, this segment, it's going to be about spending money, and they need to do it. Tulloch would be a guy that I would go after. Another guy that you could really hurt your other division rival would be the Atlanta Falcons and Curtis Lofton. And there's a lot of talk out there around NFL circles that he's not very good in the passing game. Well, again, he's a pretty good tackler, and that's what you lacked last year. So I would take a chance because you have Butch Davis as your defensive assistant. Is probably going to be a defensive coordinator. You have Bill Sheridan, is going to be a defensive coordinator. You have guys that have experience, and you have Brian Cox, who was a hell of a linebacker, if not. He's a no-nonsense type of guy that's not going to put up with that crap. Quincy Black, Mason Foster, all these guys, get ready because it's a rude awakening. It's a new day in Tampa Bay, especially on defense. And these two guys would really fill the bill for me. Now, I don't think they can go out and get a running back. I think wide receiver is a position that we already talked about. They can't really go out and get a tight end, but they can go out and get an offensive lineman that would be good for this line. And let's face it, you always need to improve your line. You need to put something around Josh Freeman. Well, it starts in the trenches. It starts with the guts of the team. Defensive line, offensive line. That's where it starts. So, for me, the best guard out there would be Carl Nix from the New Orleans Saints. 6'5", 340, a guy that's athletic. He is going to open up those lanes for your running back, whether it's LeGarrette Blount, whether it's possibly Trent Richardson in the draft. I'll get back to that in a moment. That's also a possibility. Whether it's somebody else. It looks like it's going to be LeGarrette Blount, so it seems to make sense because he's so physical. And not only that, only gave up 12 pressures last year for the New Orleans Saints. He was great in pass protection. So this would be a guy, again, that you're going to have to pay top dollar for. Now, these are some of the guys that I think you have to consider in free agency. Now, free agency is a big-time indicator. If the Buccaneers go after a wide receiver, then you know they're probably not going to address that in the draft. If they go after a cornerback in free agency, then you would have to think that they're not going to address that position in the draft. Not so fast, my friends. Thank you, Lee Corso, for giving me that line. I had to steal it from you, and I'll do that again over and over again. But getting Morris Claiborne at number 5 in the draft would seem to make sense, especially considering the fact that you got the defensive backs coach from LSU. It seems to fit there. He may not be as athletic as Patrick Peterson, but he would be a guy that could fill the need. He could be a cornerback that you would look at and draft. At wide receiver, if the Buccaneers don't necessarily go after a wide receiver in free agency, then Justin Blackmon will probably be a guy that you would have to take a look at. And if you don't necessarily believe that LeGarrette Blount is your number one back, and let's face it, guys, he is a guy that has shown his true colors. He's not able to pick up the blitz protection. He's not able to be an every down back. Now, whether the Bucs want to, whether he's going to come along and learn to be that guy, or whether the Buccaneers don't believe he is that guy, it just makes sense for the Buccaneers to look at number 5 and either Claiborne, Blackman, or Trent Richardson. Now, I know what you're saying. A lot of teams don't necessarily draft a running back with the first-round pick because you can get him in the later rounds. But this guy seems like he could be a special player. He's highly productive at Alabama, rushed for 1,400 yards. He's a guy that can catch the ball out the backfield. He can give you what you need on this team. It's something that you can't teach. It's speed. We need speed. Just like Mickey said in Rocky, we need greasy, greasy speed. We need that. So that would be a guy that I would consider at that point. Now, going back to the free agency and the whole draft thing, again, it's a big-time indicator. So we're going to see on Tuesday what they're going to do. Now, saying all that, the biggest free agent in this class has been a shock. And let me give you my take on this situation with Peyton Manning. I think it was a mistake by the Indianapolis Colts to get rid of Peyton Manning if he's healthy. Now, what you hear, reports of Peyton Manning last year, they tried to get him ready for the season to play. Now, the guy couldn't even throw over 22 yards. He's had 4 neck surgeries. He may not be the same player. What if he takes a hit? What is that going to do for his psyche? Well, you don't know at this point. But if he is healthy, and you refuse to pay $28 million to a healthy Peyton Manning that's going to go to a team and make them an automatic Super Bowl contender, then I feel like that's a mistake in 2 ways. First of all, Peyton Manning means so much to the Indianapolis Colts. I don't have to tell you, they went 2-14 last year because he wasn't on that team. He is like a good deodorant. He covers up their flaws. He covers up a lot of flaws on the Indianapolis Colts. He wasn't there last year. They're a 2-win team. Second, if you lose Peyton Manning, you have Andrew Luck coming in. Okay, well, why couldn't you have Peyton Manning give a guy like Andrew Luck tutelage? Why couldn't you have a guy like Peyton Manning tutor a guy like Andrew Luck? What other quarterback in the league would you want another quarterback to learn from? So, again, it really doesn't make sense if he's healthy. Now, again, is he going to be healthy? That's going to be the question. And again, the question for me is, if a team gets him, how much do you pay the guy? How healthy is his neck? Is his arm strength developed? What I see on YouTube, you see a 27-second video of Peyton Manning out at Duke. He was there for a week with other Indianapolis Colts throwing the ball, and it looks like he has his arm strength back. So again, that could have been a mistake. Right now, it's a fire sale with the Colts. They're getting rid of everybody from Dallas Clark to Joseph Adai to Pierre Garçon to Reggie Wayne being a guy that's a free agent. So right now, if Andrew Luck is your quarterback, good luck, because he's going to get his brains beat out the next 3 years. Now, who do I think is going to pick up Peyton Manning and why? Well, take another drink again because I talked a long time here and maybe I've stumbled over my words a little bit. I do apologize, but again, this is the Spyder's Web, so feel free to comment if you like. I want you to. I want you to tell me what you think about the Bucs coaching situation. I want you to tell me what you think about the Bucs free agents. And I want you to tell me what you think about Peyton Manning. Now, this is why I think he's going to Miami. People talk about Denver. Yes, Denver is a great team. They have a nice defense. Tim Tebow is the quarterback there. The reason why I don't think he's going to go to Denver is simply this. Cold temperatures, and Peyton Manning doesn't play well in the cold. And second, you have John Elway there, who's never ever been able to recognize anybody better than John Elway. So to me, it's hard to really fathom that Peyton Manning is going to go to Denver. Arizona is an interesting possibility because they have Larry Fitzgerald, but Are you really willing to put 2 years consecutive into putting so much money in the quarterback position? I mean, you just paid Kevin Kolb all that money in free agency, and he's due a $7 million bonus. So if you don't get Peyton Manning, guess what? What do you tell Kevin Kolb? You don't have confidence in him? Unlikely. I don't think they do that. This is why I think he ends up in Miami. I think he ends up in Miami because, first, you have a great left tackle in Jake Long. A quarterback needs a guy that's going to protect their blind side. Second, you have an offensive dynamic with Reggie Bush at the running back position, and you have Brandon Marshall. Now, when Reggie Bush stays away from Kim Kardashian, stays away from the strippers, he's a better back. When Brandon Marshall stays away from his girlfriend or wife or whatever she is, he's a better wide receiver. Now, we put all this together now. Peyton Manning has a condo in Miami. It seems to make sense that he would be more comfortable down there. Not only that, but you have a guy like Reggie Wayne, who is from the University of Miami. And from all accounts, it looks like Reggie Wayne is going to join Peyton Manning down there wherever he goes. If it's Washington, if it's the Jets, if it's the Broncos, if it's the Cardinals. It's certainly not going to be the Seahawks because they're out. It's probably not going to be the Cardinals, and it's definitely not going to be the New York Jets because they just gave an extension to Mark Sanchez to appease him because basically they said in so many words, we don't have confidence in you, so that's why we have to give you an extension for 3 years. And the big reason why he's going to end up in Miami is simply this. Stephen Ross is a guy that's going to go out there and pay the necessary money to get a guy like Manning. He is the glitz and glamour owner. He has J-Lo as one of the people that co-owns the team. You have Serena Williams, the Williams sisters that own this team. It's all flash and dash. He has to compete with the Miami Heat. He has to compete with the Miami Marlins. And what better way to do that than to get Peyton Manning as your starting quarterback? It seems to make sense to me. I think that's what's going to happen. Well, this has been the Spyder's Web. Again, second edition. Hopefully you liked what you heard. Go ahead and comment on it. Tell me what you think. What's going to happen with the Buccaneers? It's all going to happen on Tuesday. What about Greg Schiano? Is he a great hire? And what about Peyton Manning? Where will he end up? Again, this is the Spyder's Web, and I'm out.